welcome to The Wrap. Thanks to Coates, I'm Sarah Olle, and in the host chair today is Gemma Bastiani. Hello to you, Gem.
Hello, I'm excited to be here.
Pumped to have you on board and pumped to look at the results from across the weekend as we do look at what happened in round 9, because Brisbane and Adelaide, they've very much kept those top 4 hopes alive, Gem. And whoa, what about today's result with the Swans?
That is the biggest result of the round, Sarah. The Swans needed to win that one to keep their finals hopes alive. But unfortunately for Carlton, it means top 4 might be out of the question now.
So the hunt for those final 8 spots, Gem, it is well and truly on. Let's have a look at how the ladder looks, because we're well and truly at the business end of the season. I reckon you could make a case that 10 teams are now jostling for 8 positions.
Yeah, we did have a bit of an argument
off camera
about this one. I think it's only 9 teams could make it. We've ruled out Fremantle, though, because that percentage is like having a game less won.
True.
But there is still a really tight race for the bottom half of that top 8.
I love it.
It's the best position to be in, isn't it? To have some really crucial games coming into round 12.
Absolutely. And the Swans certainly held up their end of the bargain today. This was a result that I certainly didn't see coming, because it was 4 losses in a row, but in the end, far too good for the Blues. And it was on the back of a performance from Montana Ham, who was our player of the round, thanks to Coates.
Montana Ham, she was simply outstanding in this game, and it was her team's ability, just like in this example, to release her into space. That's where she's done her most damage this year. Her run and carry, it's what made her the number 1 draft pick those years ago. Her ability to run through the ground and actually do some damage with ball in hand, and she just broke lines in a way that we've seen Carlton do this year, but the Swans essentially just did it back at them using Montana Ham as their weapon.
She's got incredible size and power, and when she runs with the ball like that, she looks simply unstoppable, Gem. I mean, if you look at the stat sheet, though, is Laura Gardner a bit stiff? Because she finishes with 43 disposals. I mean, she could be player of the round too, but you liked the influence Montana had on the game.
Yeah, absolutely. And we kind of compare them to Jasmine Garner and Ash Riddell at North Melbourne. We know that Ash Riddell wins a lot of the footy, has a lot of those records, but it's what Jasmine Garner and Montana Ham in this weekend do in terms of that power, that breakaway speed. Montana had nearly 700 metres gained in this game, which is just a line-breaking ability. It's very hard to defend as well, so really liked Montana's game. Not taking anything away from Laura Gardner.
Absolutely not. We love Laura as well. It was a stark contrast, though, in the middle, wasn't it? Because last week the Swans got taught a serious lesson against North Melbourne, but the damage was done at the centre against the Blues today.
Absolutely it was. And this is where Swans fans can get very excited, because this is where they're at their best. Those clearances from the middle of the ground, they did the bulk of their scoring from. And it wasn't just really small, tight clearances. They're getting them front side clearance, powerful, into attack. They won the centre clearance count 13-4, which is a significant gap. And it really helped them towards that 45-22 inside 50 count as well. And you saw in that vision, Ali Morfitt was crucial to that part as well.
So 39-point winners was Scott Gowan's side today. What do we make of the Blues? Because we have been singing their praises all year. Were they just a little bit off their game today?
Yeah, I think they got caught out early in the game because of that centre clearance dominance. You got to remember they were without Mimi Hill, which puts a little bit more pressure on some other midfielders there. They threw a Ron Fitzpatrick into that part of the ground for the second half, but she's a bit more of a pinch hitter in that sort of role. So I think just they were one tough midfielder down. They'll learn the lesson from this, but it does hurt them in that race to the top 4.
It was a stunning result, and there was another stunning result over in the West, because Fremantle, well, they held on against Melbourne by 5 points. Gem, did you see this one coming?
No. Did anyone see this one coming?
I don't know. The Dockers may have, but they were on song from the word go. They had a really big lead in the opening quarter. I just kind of assumed Melbourne would come back. They did, but the Dockers, they kept going.
Yeah, and it was the 2 captains that had a big say late in that quarter. Kate Hoare put Melbourne up late in the quarter, but then Ange Stannett comes back, kicks the match winner, and then it was Georgie Brisbane, the first-year player, key forward who goes back into defence to take a really important intercept mark. It's a buoying win for Fremantle, but unfortunately we think they're a little bit too far away from that top 8.
Question for you.
Here we go.
Are you superstitious?
I don't think I am, but now I'm nervous that maybe...
I'm thinking, was the writing on the wall with the Ds? Because They got stuck, 4 of their best players, in a lift before the game. Come on, Gem. The writing was on the wall or in the elevator.
Was this sabotage from Fremantle? Did they get into the team hotel?
Maybe they did.
Just lock them down? Because those 4 players, you'd argue that they're going to be the top 4 of their BNF come season's end.
So Hanks, Hall, Gillard and Chaplin. I don't know if I'd do too well in that tight space. I would have been very happy to see the firefighters.
If you're Talia Gillard and you're 190 centimetres
no,
tall.
thank you. Let's get to the other match today at RSCA Park, which was popping off, I've got to say, for Pride Round. The Ferris wheel was back, Gem, but for St Kilda, 5 wins in a row, the first time ever in AFLW history.
Yeah, and it's important to be able to get momentum throughout a season, and that's something St Kilda have been able to do. And you've noticed that little baby Otis, they've not lost since baby Otis was born. Nicola Stevens' little bub, so maybe they just got to keep him around a little bit longer.
It was an excellent result for the Saints as they eye their first finals campaign as well. They're doing it through a lot of adversity, as we've also noted. And was there another injury concern today?
Yeah, they're dropping like flies, unfortunately.
Yeah.
But positively, Nick Barr, it's not an ACL for her, and they think that, well, they're hopeful that she'll show again at some point in the season. But Charlotte Simpson got a dislodged tooth, I think is the word that Nick Del Santo used in his post-match presser. Still in the head, but maybe not as tightly as it should be.
Thanks, Dr. Gemma. Let's get to Icon Park, where on Saturday night, the Roos extended that crazy winning streak to 21 in a row. It was Libby Birch's 100th game, and whilst the Tigers were very honest in the first half, Gem, when the rain come down, it was a class gap for the Roos.
And that's what the Roos have done so well this year, is that their ability to use the ball, and everyone just thinks, oh, they're a very skillful team, which they are, but it's also they're so predictable to one another. So when you're using the ball at a really high disposal efficiency, it's not just about you hitting those targets, it's also about knowing where your teammates are going to be so that you can hit them. So they're so well drilled.
How about the spread of goal kickers as well? This has really caught my attention because 3 Kangaroos players are now in the top 5 for goals this AFLW season. Jasmine Garner, Blaheen Bogue and Talia Randall. I mean, Jasmine Garner is doing this as a midfielder. Blaheen Bogue is a new addition to the side. Talia Randall plays game 100 next week, so we know all about her, but that's wild, isn't it?
It's remarkable. It's something we've never seen before as well. I think it's because they're so dangerous in attack, everyone just assumes that, their attacking line, they're hard to defend because there's so many of them. But there's a different player that I actually want to highlight as part of the instigator of that broad attacking performance, and that is Emma Carney.
Well, I feel like she just dictates play at the back. I was at this game and Richmond kind of put this soft defensive forward on her, Mackenzie Ford, but she's only 20 years old. Emma's 16 years her senior, and I just feel like given so much leg room at times, or leg rope, I should say, at times.
Yeah, it seems like such an obvious one as well when you look at the way that North Melbourne is playing. Emma Carney sets up so much, not only of the way they then rebound the ball, but the way they structure their defensive line. They've been the stingiest defence in the AFLW for 3 years now. And a lot of it is because of the way, as you're seeing on screen, the way she organises her teammates around her. You've got to stop Emma Carney if you're going to stop North Melbourne, don't you?
I think so. I think the 2 magnets I'd be circling are 1, Jasmine Garner. We know how good she is, but the second one would be Emma Carney, because otherwise she just controls the complete game at will. She does not stop yapping, but she's directing traffic the entire time.
She is, and the great thing about Emma Carney is that as that half back, which we know she moved into to extend her career, her ability to balance the defensive stuff, so her ability to stop her direct opponent and do damage that way, plus her ability to then rebound back out and set up the way they actually send the ball forward. It's a perfect balance between the two things. And if you stop that or you limit that, then you go a little bit towards stopping their ball movement, which is so dangerous.
So what you're intimating here is that the Roos, if you do a few of these shutdown rolls, they are gettable. And I'm wondering if Hawthorn is the side that could get Darren Crockers, because they've gone 8-1 with a big win over Gold Coast. And I know they haven't always been playing their best footy this year, Gem, but they keep winning. And they do have a date with the Roos in the not-too-distant future.
Yeah, in round 12, these two teams will meet for the first time in their history as well. It'll be the last matchup that we'll see finishing off the complete set. But I think Dan Webster is quite strategic in those sorts of respects. He does know that there are key players that you can shut down or limit and go toward you winning the game or really challenging a team. And I think he will come into this game thinking, all right, we've got to stop the Emma Carney rebound and we've got to stop the Jasmine Garner powerful breakaway into the forward line. And I think Carney is the number one and Garner is the number two.
Anya McDonough, it was some game from her. She was a little bit inaccurate, 3 goals, 4, but she is such a great player to watch.
She's been their match winner this year.
Yeah.
I'm saying it like her ability to just stand up in the forward line, the Geelong game a couple of weeks ago, they're challenged, but then out of the goal square, Anya McDonough, she just makes things happen, air and on the ground.
So Libby Birch, it was game 100 for her this weekend, but it wasn't just about Libby because Brie Conan, the Lions captain, also celebrated her 100th match in style. And I thought her game, Gemma, was symptomatic of Brisbane's masterclass in defence. It hasn't been that way all season, but they were on song against Port Adelaide.
They were, and the last thing you want to do when you're playing against Brisbane is allow their intercepting defenders to start to feel confident. And given the way Port Adelaide play in terms of that surge footy, long kicks forward, it just invited a Brie Conan to take some intercept marks early, a Jade Ellinger to run off half-back, Natalie Grider to do the same. And it really allowed Brisbane to kind of get their game going. And they're another team that could challenge North Melbourne come finals with this sort of confidence.
They've got a bit of mongrel about them, Brisbane. And you know, come finals, Gem, they're just going to step it up a year. So potentially they could be one. And I mean, it is another edition of The Wrap, which means it's another edition of the Courtney Hodder Show. But we have to include these highlights because she is a human highlights reel. How is the mark, Gem? But then the goal also ain't half bad.
I mean, yeah, the mark incredible, but the goal, surely Maria Maloney knew it was coming because 2 minutes prior to this, Courtney Hodder had taken a shot from the same spot and didn't make the distance. So she was going to try and close that distance down a little bit. But fun fact for you, she is the only player in AFLW history to have won both a Goal of the Year and a Mark of the Year award. Could she have maybe just done it again, but from the same passage of play?
I mean, it would save us on the highlights come awards night, wouldn't we? We just roll out the one video, but she's so sensational to watch. As for Geelong, they've kept their slim finals hopes alive with, what was it, a 27-point win over the Giants at GMHBA Stadium. And that brings us to new kids on the block.
Yeah, so we've picked a Geelong player who was on a bit of a knife's edge, Sarah. Had a couple of opportunities to make her mark in the forward line with some injuries, but hadn't been able to do it. But on the weekend, Chantel Mason kicked 3 goals in a really important showing, some good contested marking, but then went back and actually had kicked 7 behinds for her career to date. How do you break that? All I could think of was Lewis Jetta and his 19 straight behinds before his first
slightly
goal.
Worse.
Slightly worse. No, but Chantel Mason, it kind of felt like this was going to be her year, given the injuries that Geelong have had in their forward line. She's a big key forward marking target that was very highly rated coming to the draft, not last year, the year before. She needed to find her feet because contract was up at the end of the year, but maybe she's just bought herself a bit more time to develop.
This was quite an even game until the final quarter where the Cats kicked away 5 goals to 1. What do we make of Geelong's form? I feel like I get a bit seduced by these highlights, these great patches they have. They're superstars, Gem, but I'm just not sure if there's enough depth there to, 1, make finals and 2, do damage if they get there.
We've chatted about this on and off throughout the week, you and I,
Yeah.
and I've had to think about why, and you've hit the nail on the head there. Their stars, Georgie Prasparkas, Nina Morrison, Aisling Maloney, those players are so eye-catching and the way that they play their footy is so entertaining. So even when Geelong are losing, they're playing an entertaining brand of football.
Which we like.
But they've got to start winning at some point, right? Now, I know they won on the weekend, but is that indicative of the team that they are and the team that they can be? That is my question. And I don't know that they're a finals team.
All right, well, let's look at their run home because they're going to have to win some games to be able to get there. And it doesn't get much easier, Jem, because West Coast away is tough. And then the Dogs, well, they should get over the line there. And the D's at home, that's a challenging run home.
But even the Dogs isn't a given. The Dogs have been playing some very
right.
good football of recent. And they would need to win all 3 of those, I think, to make finals. I don't know that they can.
Well, gut feel, do they make it?
I don't think they make it.
Okay, well, a team that will be in finals is Adelaide because they had a nice big win over West Coast, who showed a bit of pluck in the final term, but the Crows too good, and it was their defence that really stood out to you, Gem, and caught your eye.
Yeah, and you know that I'm a big rap of this West Coast team as it's developing, but I think the last thing you can do against Adelaide's defensive line is send the ball in high and long. And that's all West Coast did really for 3.5 quarters. And it just allowed Sarah Allen, Chelsea Bedell, Zoe Prowse to just get that confidence back in their marking game. And very similar to Brisbane that we've already spoken about. Once you let them get into the game, they can dictate play from that back half. And that's what the Eagles didn't quite get right on the weekend. When the Tigers beat Adelaide the week prior, it was a ground ball game, it was a pressure game, and it took those players out of it. So a little bit of a strategic maybe question, but a young team at West Coast, they're gonna be fine.
Let's have a look at Adelaide's run home because it's really about where they're going to finish, Gem, and the Roos. That's a big challenge for them coming up.
We did say that we think North may be a gettable, and we did highlight Hawthorn, but also Adelaide, if they play the way that they did on the weekend, potentially could challenge North Melbourne and have a reasonably good record against the Roos, but Port Adelaide, not an easy beat, and Fremantle from this weekend, also not an easy beat. So that's a pretty tough run home.
Let's get to Friday night football at Whitten Oval, where the Dogs absolutely overpowered the Bombers. And Alice Edmonds, the Dogs' ruck, well, Tam Hyatt said after the match she should be in consideration for all Australian honours. I'm not sure about that, but she's certainly dominating games, Gem, more than she ever has.
Yeah, I was out at this game, and I've watched a lot of Alice Edmonds footy over the last few years. I've never seen her take charge of a game like she did in this one. She was bringing her midfielders into the game really, really well, but her ability to present around the field, get forward and kick a goal, take some contested marks, and it was against Steph Wales, so not against an easy beat ruck either. So Edmund should be very proud of the way that she went out there on the weekend, and she could propel the Bulldogs to create a bit of chaos with the teams that they meet in the last 3 weeks.
They've been so much improved, haven't they, over about the last month or so, and a real joy to watch.
Yeah, and I think that game really was an example of how far they've come in 12 months, because that game last year was
awful,
criticised.
It was awful, Jen.
It was awful. It was criticised for how defensive it was and how dour it was. 12 months on, the same fixture, Pride round against Essendon. Essendon nearly went goalless in the end because the Bulldogs were just so attacking all day.
Now, I wonder if this could be the one sour note to the Bulldogs' win. It's an incident involving Isabel Pritchard on Maddie Prasparkas. She throws a bit of a wayward or a crude elbow back, and you feel like she's going to be in a bit of trouble, Gem, with the MRO.
Yeah, it's not malicious in any way, and it's an action she probably does 600 times in a game, but unfortunately you get someone in the head, and we see Maddie there the next day celebrating sister Georgie's 50th game. You get someone in the head, they bleed, they have to come off the ground, you probably are facing a suspension for that.
Yeah, well, Gem, we're not suspending you. You're welcome back anytime because you were an absolute joy on the wrap. Thanks to Coates. Did you have fun?
Always have fun with you.
Always. All right. We'll see you next week on the wrap.